So here we are again. We've got to cover basically the same ground that we did in coming out of slavery. And the Supreme Court, which was broken and is broken, it was broken when Republicans appointed Clarence Thomas to the bench. That's when they broke it. Because Clarence Thomas doesn't believe in any of the rights that were there granted to African Americans prior to his coming to the court. And despite him using those benefits that were gained once he came in, he bought whole hog into the extreme right philosophy. Even though, as he's this amateur historian, he and Judge Alito, in trying to justify the recent ruling, ripping out of the Constitution the right to an abortion, here's what they did. They leapfrogged over all the history from this today back into the 1800s, going back into witches and trials of witches. And what's so crazy about this thing is, as Judge Alito went back, Clarence Thomas went with him. Only Clarence Thomas had to make some unique skips and hops back over history because he is in an interracial marriage. There's nothing in the original Constitution that supported interracial marriages, which Clarence Thomas is in. And so Clarence leaps back and has to avoid that, because then that would mean he would be in jeopardy. And worse yet, he says that since we find no constitutional basis for abortion rights, not going to talk about interracial marriage because I'm in that. That's what he says. He says we need to go after other areas which have no basis, according to Clarence Thomas and Judge Alito and the other conservatives, in the original Constitution. Well, so then the gay community, which gathered its rights on the backs of people who look like me, and once they acquired those rights, they walked away from people who look like me. Now they find themselves once again in the same boat, because someone who looks like me, Clarence Thomas, wants to take their rights away. He says we need to rip that out of the Constitution as well, along with contraceptive and other private sexual acts. So he wants to rip that out. And by their actions of taking, for the first time in the history of the court, ripping away a constitutional right, that opens the door to all these other things. Which brings me to my third group, white women, who again gathered much of their gains off the backs of people who look like me. And then they walked away after they acquired those rights. But here we are again. We're in the same boat because they thought they had made it. And then along comes Amy Barrett Coney, a woman. And she sides with Alito and Judge Thomas and rips their right out of the Constitution. Now they're up in arms because they thought they had made it. This should teach us a lesson. that everything is tenable. Everything is negotiable. Everything is temporary. Nothing's permanent. And now, in order for them to regain those rights, abortion rights, guess who they must come to and side with in order to get rights back? Well, people who look like me. The gay community has to align itself with people who look like me because they don't have enough votes by themselves to accomplish their goals. Only this time, we're going to strike a different bargain. You see, we should not be supporting anyone who doesn't put first our interests, voting rights. You see, the Supreme Court just handed down a decision, by the way, when they spoke about taking away a right from us. One page with nearly a comment. This decision has to do with what we already know are these racial gerrymandering districts. One in Mississippi, they said, let it stand, even though the lower court says this is clearly racist. The United States Supreme Court said that it is okay for them to take away the voting rights of 30% of the people in Mississippi. That the Constitution allows that. You see, the court is broken. It's broken. It's trying to usher in a new Jim Crow era. Basically, they want to bring in rule by minority, they want to take away my rights for representation, my voting rights, sacred voting rights that we've bled and died for. The United States Supreme Court says it's okay for them to gerrymander an area to take away our representation. Mississippi should be entitled to 2 more representatives in the United States House of Representatives. But they made it so they only get 1. And the majority will go to the white Mississippians. So we have today, the United States Supreme Court struck down the lower court saying in Mississippi, a conservative district court saying this is wrong. The United States Supreme Court struck it down. While on the other hand, I think in the northern United States, I don't know if it was in Minnesota or Wisconsin, the Supreme Court did the opposite. And they said, well, we cannot allow Black people to have too much voting power. Therefore, we're going to rule against that map, which was considered fair. And so that's what we have. We have a broken Supreme Court, which is making rulings not on the basis of jurisprudence, but on the basis of their extreme right conservative views. That's what we have. And we have to wake up